Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Becky, lovely to see you all. If you're new, welcome. Today I wanted to discuss with you all something that I had done a couple of years ago. I know it can be done for different reasons. I want to just explain to you why I had it done, what it is, my experience, and then to hand it over to you guys to see if you've had a similar had to have it done before and what your experience of it was. So a couple of years ago I had to have an iron infusion, not to be confused with a blood transfusion. It is to quickly get iron into the body. I had to have it done because I was having an operation. I was having my second operation to have fibroids removed. So if you're new to the channel, I have uterine fibroids, which are large growths within sort of the womb and the uterus, that cause a lot of different problems. And this is my second time to actually have some of them got rid of under general anaesthetic. But as I was quite anemic due to my heavy periods because of the fibroids, they had to quickly get my iron levels up a bit higher, just so that they would be able to operate safely without me losing too much further blood. So I had what was called an iron infusion. So it's exactly what it says on the tin, really. So it is where they inject iron directly intravenously into the vein. So it gets around your body really quickly, and it just means that you get iron quick. It boosts your levels, and hopefully makes you feel better as well. So it can be done for sort of several different reasons, especially if anemia is severe. They may do this just to get those iron levels up quickly if it's going to cause any kind of long-lasting effects, or make you feel really poorly. I obviously had it, like me, I had it pre-op, so pre-surgery, to get my iron levels up quickly so that they could operate safely. It also increases, obviously, like I said, it makes you feel better. So it increases energy, makes breathing easier, because obviously if you're anemic, it causes a lot of problems. So they may encourage you to have an IV infusion, so an intravenous infusion, if perhaps you find it quite difficult to take iron by mouth. You can't absorb iron quick enough, or your gut just won't absorb it very well. Or like me, where you can't absorb enough iron due to the amount of blood loss that you have, because obviously I have a heavy period, so every month I'm losing a high level of iron, and I have menorrhagia, which is obviously heavy bleeding. So obviously that's what caused my anemia in the first place, and obviously that's what they had to try and boost up before they could operate. So that's another way of where iron infusion is quite is recommended, to try and boost that up before, you know, and obviously to make you feel better as well. And also it might be, like we've already said, it might be to try and increase your iron levels quickly, or fast, to avoid sort of any medical complications, or to prevent a blood transfusion. So not only is it to sort of boost it up quickly for surgery or anything like that, but also to make sure that it doesn't cause more severe anemia and then obviously further medical implications. So I don't think I've ever discussed it on this channel, but actually my two biggest phobias used to be needles and blood. And particularly needles, and then obviously because of the blood tests were a no-no. I don't think I had a blood test from the age of about 15 until I was almost, I think in my late 20s, when I had my first surgery to remove fibroids. So I'd gone a long time, I'd refused, I'd just taken iron tablets, which my doctor had recommended, without the blood test. It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But my phobia was so great. I knew that if I was in that situation, even just thinking about it, it wasn't actually seeing it, it wasn't feeling it, my body just reacts to being in that kind of environment where I know that sort of thing is going on, where people are having blood tests, and my blood pressure would just drop. So hospital environments, the sights, the smells, the sounds, that's it, blood pressure drops. And so I hadn't had it for so long. I'd put it off for so long. And then when I had to have one before my first surgery, I think I was about 28 at the time, I actually had to take sort of anti-anxiety tablets. I had to have somebody go with me just in case. I have to lay down. I have to tell the nurses that I am phobic, and they're very calm and they're brilliant and absolutely amazing. But I feel silly. I feel stupid. Grown woman, and I can't even cope with that. I'd come over faint, rubbish, you know, having to lay down, having to recover, having to drink water and sit there for 10 minutes to feel better. So I really put it off. I knew exactly how my body reacts. Blood pressure just goes. I'd never been very good with it. And so when they told me I had to have an iron infusion before my second surgery, so that by this time I was about 34, I hadn't, you know, still that phobia was massive. So when they told me I had to have an iron infusion, and then they told me what it was, it took me a lot to prepare myself to go through it. Basically, for all of you out there, if you're squeamish, I wouldn't recommend listening to this. Basically, like I mentioned, it's intravenous, so it's straight into the vein. Needle straight into the vein. This is the bit that really gets me. For somebody that is phobic of needles, and particularly those that go straight in the vein, it was over an hour of, it could be a 2 hour, you know, it was a long process where you sat there with this drip in your arm for over an hour and a half, I would say, where this brown iron-y liquid was pumped into my body. So I went on my own. I waited there in the waiting room for them to call me in. I was so anxious, so anxious, because I knew it was coming. You know, it wasn't just a quick jab. And like I've already said, and I know I'm going to get maybe comments on this, to me, it's not seeing it, it's not feeling it. It's because I get people say to me all the time in the past, just don't look. Oh, it's not going to hurt much. It doesn't bother me. You could be scratching my arm, you know, scraping my arm, and I'll be fine with that. But then this needle, no. You could be punching me in the arm, I prefer that. You know, it's not pain, doesn't bother me. It's not seeing it, doesn't bother me. It's the fact that I know it's going on, and it's my fear has always been, my phobia, and I think I'm going to talk about this in another video in case any of you guys feel like the same, was not so much what was going on, but the fear of how my body reacts in that situation. And I know I've read quite a few articles on this. It's a particular phobia. It is needle phobia, but it's not seeing the needle. It's none of that. It's just in that situation, like I say, with the smells, the antiseptic, the hospital environment. It could be quite warm in the room, and your memories of how your body has dealt with that situation before, and it's made you feel poorly, faint, uncomfortable, don't know what to do with yourself, all of those things. That's the fear you have. That is the fear of that's going to happen to me again, not so much what is actually going to happen. So there's me in the waiting room, waiting for my iron infusion, and trying to not feel like that, and trying to keep us relaxed, think, okay, I can try and do this. And I thought, I've got to do it. So I've just got to get on with it. So take me through to this room. And there must have been about 8 other people all having the same procedure in there. A lot of them obviously wasn't their first time. And then there was a gentleman, he must have been in his 80s, and he was having the same as me. I think his was pre-operative, so pre-surgery, to boost his levels up. And I just thought, if all these other people in here can deal with it, so can I. I'm one of these kind of people that I wouldn't make a fuss if I was scared about something or anxious about something. I go very quiet, and I just try and keep calm as much as possible, even though inside I'm like going, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't know how I'm going to cope with this. So I'm a quiet person. I just let them get on with it. And I said to one of the nurses when I sort of sat down that I said, as long as you keep me flat, like laying flat, my blood pressure won't drop and I'll be absolutely fine. And she just didn't really, she could obviously see I was quite anxious. She just didn't really take much notice, to be honest. There were two sort of nurses there, and this one lady in particular, she was just very much like, let's just get on with it. Which in a way I'm quite glad about. I would prefer to sort of have somebody just say, no, come on, let's just do it. Otherwise I can sort of try and get out of it. So I was glad she was like that, but she wasn't taking any notice of laying flat. So she basically tilted me back a little bit, but I was still sitting upright in a sense. So I said, you know, so they insert the drip, they got me got me all sorted, and I just sat there, and they sort of would come and sort of walk around the room every so often, and I could just feel myself feeling faint, really uncomfortable. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I really just didn't know what to do to make myself feel okay. I just felt like, I can't explain it. I just felt so like spaced, sweating, anxious, sick. I just felt so bad because I could tell it's because I wasn't laying down. Like my blood pressure was dropping. I just didn't feel well at all. And this isn't like me, but I was that uncomfortable, and so I just didn't know what to do with myself that I almost started crying. I had to keep my arm, and then I would think, I know what that's doing, I know what's in my arm, and then you just, it's really strange, but then it just overcomes you, and you just don't know how to deal with yourself. You just don't know what to do with yourself. So there was this lovely lady sitting, she was sitting up next to me. It was obviously, she was sort of, a veteran in this. She'd obviously done it a few times, and she was sitting next to me. She could see I was getting really upset and really anxious, and this nurse wasn't seeming to care, basically, sort of, and well, not care, but she had other people to deal with, and she just probably didn't want to deal with this anxious woman that's making a fuss out of nothing. So this other lady, bless her, was trying to talk to me, keep me calm, say, you'll be okay, I know it's horrible, isn't it, it's not nice feeling and all of this. And I was just getting more and more worked up, more because I just didn't know what to do with myself. I just felt sick, I felt faint, I felt just sweating, I just so uncomfortable. I just didn't know what to do. In the end, one of the nurses came over, and I said, if I'm laying down a bit more flat, I'll feel absolutely fine. They laid me down a bit more flat. I was absolutely fine. When you have fainted, or you felt faint and sick and all of that, and been really sweaty, you obviously then just feel so drained afterwards, so tired. So actually, for the rest of the procedure, I was okay, obviously I wasn't loving it. It was a long time. I was obviously then a bit shivery because I'd been so sweaty, and then obviously I'd cooled down, and it makes me anxious thinking about it, actually, but I'll come to that bit in a minute. But I was okay, I could cope with it. It's just because by then there was nothing making me feel poorly. There was nothing making me feel like I could faint, because I'm already laying down, so what will happen? I'll just, So I know a lot of it's psychological, but I felt fine after that. So basically, yeah, you get left with the pillow under your arm with the IV drip in there, injecting all of this iron into you. I did have a really weird sensation at one point where I could feel the iron, like I could feel like a liquid going around my body, and that was really weird. Really weird. It was just so surreal. It was a bit uncomfortable, actually, to have this kind of, almost like on your chest, around your body, that kind of like it's like something circulating around your vein. Well, it obviously was. It was going through, but you could actually feel it. It was really, really strange. I don't know if anybody else has witnessed that before, but that was really, really weird. And then it came to the point where it's all done, and they had to take it out and all of this. And again, I said to the nurse, as long as I'm laying flat, I'm fine, absolutely fine. Just so keep me flat while you take the needle out my arm and do all of that, and then just leave me to, have 5 minutes laying flat afterwards. You'll have no problems with me. And I didn't faint. I had that really uncomfortable moment. But for somebody that was so phobic of blood tests, that I hadn't had one for say 12 years, I felt I dealt with it okay. I mean, that bit in the middle, but I'd already said to them, the nurse, lay me flat, fine. But until they did that, I obviously was really struggling with the procedure. But if I was to ever have it done again, I know that if they laid me flat, and then I'd be absolutely fine for the rest of the procedure, and I'd know what to expect, and know I can deal with it, know I have done it before. And that leads me on to where I've actually, since then, so it's a couple of years ago, I obviously had that done. I had my pre-op done, where to have a blood test. I obviously had, during my surgery, obviously had to have, needle, like cannulas and things. And then post-op and going forward, I know I've spoken before, I was on a tablet called Maya, where I had to be regularly tested for liver damage, because that was one of the side effects of the tablet. So I'd have to have regular blood tests. And I want to tell you guys, and I want to sort of explain this a bit more in further videos, but actually since having or have to have all of those blood tests, my phobia has virtually gone. I got to the point where I'd had to have them sort of once a month, these blood tests. Knew what would help me to feel better. Knew that I could come out of it and actually not feel faint. Know that I could come out of it and not feel sick. Know that I could come out of it and just walk away and go to work and be okay. Still a bit shaky. Knew ways of how to deal with it, like make sure I had something sugary, a nice fruity drink afterwards, because sometimes you have that really dry thirst. So there was ways of dealing with it, and I learnt those and I got through it. And then the last one I had done, which was about a year ago, last blood test, which was actually, I went to, instead of the hospital, I went to the doctor's surgery. They sat me in a normal chair and I was fine. I didn't have to lay down, I didn't have to do anything. She sat me there and I was absolutely fine. So I'm kind of glad I've had to go through all these things, because it's very easy with phobias just to ignore them and hope you don't have to come ever sort of confront them. But when you do and you get through it stronger, knowing that next time if you ever had to have anything done, you can cope with it 100 times better. That's a positive, isn't it? A real positive. So just a few details regarding actually the preparation for the iron infusion. So you'll usually get a leaflet from the hospital or surgery, depending on where you're having it done, which will go through details of the procedure, how long it's going to take, how you need to prepare, and all of those things. So I had this leaflet. Obviously for me that caused a little bit of anxiety, because I wasn't, not that anybody would enjoy it, but I was so scared about having it done. So obviously for me, seeing that and what exactly we're going to do, it's like, oh dear, but I knew I had to have it done, so I had to go through it. So you didn't need to prepare particularly for anything. You didn't need to sort of fast. You could eat your breakfast, your lunch, or whatever meal beforehand, and they didn't make you fast or anything. You could take your medication beforehand. They didn't make you stop that either. They obviously prepared you with this leaflet to say you'd have a small drip put in your arm, and how long it would take. And they would also sort of take, I believe they sort of take your personal details, your next of kin, contact, emergency contact in case anything did happen. So obviously gave my husband, and in case I'd had a reaction or something had happened. So yeah, basic procedures, all of those things. They do obviously outline that people may feel nervous about the procedure, and about how they're happy to talk through anything if you are nervous or not sure what to expect. There were a few tips, and I would also recommend these to you as well, to obviously make sure that it's obviously quite a long procedure, so you want to be as comfortable as possible. So that I would wear as loose a clothing as possible, obviously something that they can roll up easily without sort of cutting any or being uncomfortable around your arm or cutting circulation. So nice loose clothes, and also because you are kind of sat there for quite a while, you want to be comfortable. So I would recommend like nice loose t-shirts, jogging bottoms, something that's nice and loose and comfortable, so you don't feel sort of restricted, tight, uncomfortable either. And obviously, like me, if you were to feel hot, faint, all of those things, you don't want to be wearing this tight restricting clothing. You want to be quite comfortable and loose. Have a drink of water available, in case you do feel a little bit anxious. Obviously you get quite dry mouth, and also because it does take over an hour, so make sure you're prepared for that, just so you don't get dry, and it's you've got it next to you. Some people say actually it's quite good to listen to music. Again, that's more of a sort of a distraction, a calming you down, something to do as well, obviously, because it does take quite a while. Others might, instead of listen to music, you might watch a show on your phone or tablet or something, just again distraction, pass the time, all of those things. Or obviously read a book or magazine if that's what you prefer. So there's a few tips there. I suppose it's just about relaxation, being comfortable and passing the time really whilst you're sitting there. So in terms of a roundup of my experience, obviously it was scary because at the time I was extremely phobic of needles, in particular blood tests. So having a needle in my arm for over an hour wasn't good, basically. It wasn't something I enjoyed. Not that anybody would enjoy, but my other experience would be that some of the nurses sort of on duty were a lot more sympathetic to how I was feeling than others. So as I say, the first nurse wasn't sympathetic to my wishes, where I sort of would say, as long as you lay me down, I'm fine. I kept it quite, I wasn't rude, I wasn't upset. I just said, as long as you lay me down, I'll be fine. Another nurse, when they did come and lay me down, it was another nurse that actually laid me down further. Actually was sort of took a bit more pity on me, a bit more sympathy, and actually as soon as they did that, they realised that I was much more comfortable. I obviously had that lovely lady sitting next to me that made me feel a lot more comfortable. She kept talking to me, took my mind off it. I would close my eyes once I was laying down and felt better. I'd close my eyes, and the time did go okay. It was much quicker then once I felt more comfortable. I did feel really tired for the rest of the day. I felt very drained, but you do when you've felt faint, your blood, had all those symptoms, or you faint, you do feel really tired for the rest of the day. It does take it out of you a lot. So I would recommend that if you're similar to me, I would prepare yourself to have just a really nice relaxing day afterwards. Don't have anything planned but to go home, watch a few films, watch a few movies, have some of your favourite treats in the house, and just look forward to that part of the day. So although you've got this rubbish thing first thing in the morning, you know that the rest of your day is going to be a nice relaxing one with all your favourite treats and things. Main thing I got from it is I survived it. Obviously I survived it, but I got through it. I was fine. If I'm fine, you're going to be fine, because as I say, at the time I was extremely phobic of needles, particularly blood tests, and it was a very daunting thing for me. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. And like I mentioned, nowadays it wouldn't bother me as half as much as it would then back then. In a nutshell, my experience wasn't great at the time. It could have been better, but I got through it and I could do it again if I needed to. I'm sure a lot of you out there, it's a nervy thing. It's a difficult thing to do. But if you're not phobic of needles, if you're quite, not happy, nobody's ever happy to have a blood test, but if you're, fine with blood tests, you're going to swim through it. It's not the nicest of things because you're obviously sitting there for a long period of time. But if I can do it, like I say, I'm sure you guys can. So over to you now, guys. I just want to find out a little bit more about your experiences. What did you experience? How did it go for you? Why did you have to have it done? Did it make you feel better? What was your experience during actually having it done? Was it a positive experience or not so positive? And would you have it done again if you needed to? So it'd be really great to hear from you about your thoughts, opinions and experiences. As I've mentioned in this video, in the future I'd like to talk about my experience of like needle phobia and things like that, because I know a lot of people out there suffer from it. But if I can, and being somebody that was extremely phobic of it, can come through it and feel a lot better, I know some of you guys out there can as well. So how did the iron infusion make me feel afterwards? Well, I say it was a couple of years ago, but as I would recall, I had no side effects from it afterwards. I felt okay. It must have done the job because obviously they were able to go on and successfully do my surgery with no complications. So that was all good, but I can't remember like thinking I feel incredible. But it did the job. So until next time, guys, subscribe if you're new. Leave your comments below. I love hearing from you with your comments, your experiences, your questions. And I look forward to seeing you again very, very, very soon. Take care. Have a lovely rest of the weekend, guys. And bye-bye for now. Goodbye. Bye.